everybody, welcome to my channel, Phie.Love Intuitive Conversations. Just got back from running a few errands out there today. So I'm settling down and I figured let me have a little bit of a conversation. So I was thinking today I'd like to talk about an issue I think a lot of us either are going through, have gone through, maybe don't think about so much. I know I've been through it in my last relationship, and it wasn't something I really paid much mind to until I was out of it and took a step back and reevaluated myself to see how I changed. And what I mean is talking about conscience transferal, energy transferal when you're living with somebody. I know it's something that happens among families who share the same space, but now what I want to talk about is what happens when you now live with a partner who was raised in a completely different mind frame, mindset, traditional background, cultural background. I mean, those are two different consciences. What is the real word? Consciences, right? I don't know. Doesn't sound right. Anyway, those are two different energetic beings, two different mind frames, two different conscience coming together into one space, having to share. And what I want to touch on is how do we maintain our own individuality? How do we measure if we're losing ourselves and taking on the conscience in the space that is more dominant? Because if you spend enough time in a space with someone or something, naturally, even if you're alone, you fill that space with your energy, with your conscience. But it happens with everybody. So what I can say I noticed in my last experience living with somebody, intimately, sharing a space, literally just having a common space together with someone that you didn't grow up with. Okay, and in this case I'm talking about a partner. You come into a space with your own individuality, your own authenticity, your own way of thinking, your own way of doing things, and before we know it, because we want to make our partners happy, we don't even realize how we end up dropping, depending on who the more dominant person is. The less dominant person, or in many cases the female, ends up dropping her energetic boundaries. She ends up dropping her conscience boundaries to make the next person happy. But we don't realize that we need to have those boundaries. Even when we are with people, we can't just always be completely open. And why I'm bringing this up is something that's important, because it's all good and well. We all want to be in a relationship. We all want to be happy. We all want to live out the dream that is plastered and programmed into us via movies, via ads, via however you talk with your guy friends and your girlfriends, and what we all want to achieve at some point in our lives with a happy family, happy partner. But I don't think any of us are ever taught about or really consider the other aspects to living with somebody that affect us, that change us, that take away from us without even knowing, that actually affects our mood. It affects over time how we change in a relationship, how we converse, how we manage our give and take dynamic. I think this issue affects a lot of things, and it's not something that we generally consider when we go into these issues with people sometimes, especially if they're emotional issues, because we always let our emotions get the best of us, right? So when you're moving into a space with somebody, are you considering their habits? Are you considering their way of thinking? Are you considering where they come from, how they were raised? And if that is something that you would have to take on, how would it affect you? Okay, because someone meets you and you are great, you are everything they want to be with, everything they can imagine. Then you guys come into a space together and start filling a space with clashing mindsets, clashing consciences, or that word just gets me. Clashing mindsets, clashing ways of thinking, ways of doing things. And then the compromise starts. And if you're not really steadfast and strong in yourself, how far does the compromise go? And at what point do you say, now I stop compromising because I'm losing myself, or now I stop compromising because I'm getting angry with this individual I'm living with every single day about stupid small things that I see, when really what's making me angry is the fact that I don't get to exercise myself as myself anymore, and I'm taking on a mindset, I'm taking on a conscience that is filling my space around me from somebody that maybe doesn't really vibe with me, doesn't make me feel whole, doesn't make me feel safe, doesn't make me feel comfortable, because I'm adjusting to something that I wasn't raised in, or that what words do I want to use? I'm adjusting to something that I didn't operate my life on before this person came into my life. And it seeped its way into my living, into my thinking, into the way I move, into the way I cook, into the way I interact with my friends. Okay, suddenly I'm changing so much that I don't even resonate with my friends anymore. And I'm gonna blame it on growth. I'm gonna blame it on, oh, that's what happens when we go into relationships. No, it's because you dropped certain boundaries that made you you, okay? And then 4 years down the line, your partner isn't sure who they're with anymore because they're living with a version of themselves, the one that's more dominant, instead of living with the person that they thought they were going to live with and share a life with in the beginning when it was all great and well. But we fell into the trap of taking on each other's conscience and each other's ways of doing things, thinking, and energy without even realizing it, because we don't have conscious boundaries. Do you guys get where I'm going with this? Think about your last relationship. Okay. You're somebody who does a lot of reading. You don't have any toxic vices like smoking, drinking, smoking too much weed, watching way too much TV, bad spending. You just don't, you meet somebody, and when they meet you, you don't have those kinds of attachments with yourself, but the person you meet and the person you join with does. Okay, suddenly you guys are sharing a space together. Let me not say suddenly. Okay, you get to the point where you guys now are sharing a space together, And a few months down the line, you find yourself smoking weed. Before you know it, you're drinking a little bit more alcohol. Before you know it, TV starts becoming a really big part of your routine. Before you know it, you've increased on your junk food. And this happens without even someone asking you to do it, simply because you guys are sharing the same space. So when we're joining with our partners, when we're sharing our space and ourselves with people, have you got your boundaries in place and intact so that whoever the more dominant one is doesn't change you? And I know that again, strong empaths probably understand what I'm talking about. We're very malleable if we're unaware. Very malleable if we're unaware. So yeah, family, like that's just what I wanted to talk about today. And I was thinking about, I really, it bothered me that once I came out of my last relationship, I felt like the person I was with elevated himself in so many ways because of what I brought to the relationship, because of what I contributed to our space, conscience-wise, okay? And somehow what I took from him in that time was all the bad habits, okay? I was suddenly doing things that I didn't come into the relationship doing. I was suddenly bending things about myself that I wouldn't have bent when he wasn't in my life or in the beginning stages of our relationship. But because I wanted to make the person I was with happy, somehow, without even being conscious about it, to make his space more comfortable, and because his conscience was also quite dominating, I started adjusting and compromising myself in ways that I really shouldn't have. And he took on a whole bunch of things from me that helped him. It's always a give and take in everything that we do. So I'm hoping that this somehow will help people look back at their own relationships, at their current relationships that they're in, and they take a moment after watching this video to consider, what have I taken on from my partner that isn't me, that isn't benefiting me, that isn't helping me elevate? And what is my partner maybe taking on from me that my partner didn't do before they met me? How am I elevating my partner by just being in their space? And how is my partner elevating me? Aside from the fairy tale and the wanting to have the kids, get married, live together, whatever it is that we get into when, or want to be a part of when we go into relationships. What are the other bigger things? The more subtle things that are quite big. Big things that are subtle, okay? What are those things that I haven't been considering? Is the person I'm with good for me? And do we elevate each other according to our own personal standards and what it is that we need for our own journey of evolving in life, elevation, or are we elevating each other according to the standards of society? According to what we see on TV? something to think about. I got to keep this video under 20 minutes, so let me close off again with an oracle card. I will use flower therapy today, again by Dorian Virtue, and see what comes out for our talk. If you guys want me to talk more about this, because I have a lot more to say on the topic, drop me a comment, let me know, and I can get more into it. But it is a real deal that I think we're not raised into, we're not taught about. It's not something I think our parents of older generations really also paid much mind to or were made to be aware of because of societal expectations and standards that maybe influence all of that, right down to gender roles too. I think this aligns quite nicely, right? So it's a rose, the pink rose, and it says, let your inner beauty shine. And you are a brilliant example of God's love. Everything about you is perfect. So let your light shine and inspire others. Okay? I think this aligns beautifully to what I've been trying to say. Don't let the people you share your space with determine your worth. Okay? Don't let the people you share your space with, maybe because of the way that they live or the habits that they have that attract maybe more people and on the surface seem to make it seem like folks are jovial around them because of their habits and their ways and whatever it might be. Don't let that dim your shine if you're a little bit different. Be dominant in your spaces too, and allow someone else to be dominant in what they're good at. And as partners, let's also be confident enough to call each other out if we notice that someone is changing simply because they're around us, doing things that when we met them we knew they weren't doing. But also, I guess that person needs to be self-aware enough to know if their habits and their ways are actually detrimental in the long run or affecting someone else negatively, right? Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.